Welcome, everyone. My name is Nishan Bandaranayake. I am the head of domestic and direct recruitment here at Swinburne University of Technology. Hello to everyone from around the globe who is joining us today. It is our pleasure to be able to present to you. And you are joining those who've got offers. Congratulations. It's a special occasion. And we like to let you know that you're joining 30,000 students in Melbourne, Australia, who are made the right choice about studying here at Swinburne for their future. I'd also like to take a moment to make a special thank you mention to our agent partners from around the globe who are joining this webinar as well. Today, we're going to have a very open discussion about what it's like to be an international student here at Swinburne, and I'm assisted by a range of experts from across the university. And I'd like to start by introducing a few of them to you now. First up, we have Lyndon Joseph from International Recruitment, who will be talking through our admissions and offer acceptance processes. We have Desma Smith and Olivia Doyle, who are joining us from International and Student Operations, and will provide an overview of how international students can access assistance and all the support services that Swinburne has to offer them. We have the lovely Alice Foley, who is going to talk to you today about Swinburne student life and the things outside of the classroom, if you like, that really enriches your student experience. We also are joined by Dr. Liz Levine, the Director of Undergraduate Programs from the Faculty of Business and Law, who has the absolute privilege of teaching our first and second year international students. So a few housekeeping items to ensure that you have the best experience over there. Please ensure the volume is turned up, particularly if you have a large audience, so that you can hear from all of us in the panel. There is also, if there is any technical difficulties, please try logging out and logging back in. I do need to let you know that this session is being recorded. So your screen name and any questions you pose may be visible to other parties, so please keep that in mind. We are recording this to ensure that those of you who can't watch us live get an opportunity to kind of catch up, but also to have those of you who might want to follow up on anything that you may have missed, the chance to go back and review and watch this later. We will have 15 minutes dedicated to a specific question and answer session. So you'll see a little Q&A in your platform. This is where you should be posting your questions when we arrive at the question and answer time. We do have a very big group watching us today from around the globe, and we will do our best to address your particular questions. But keep in mind, if we do need to go back to our inquiries team and research and answer for you, we absolutely will do that. So we are assisted in the background by Harpreet, Miranda, Michelle, and Laura, and they will be looking after your questions as they come through. If they need to escalate you to one of our inquiries management team, only to give you a research answer, they will ensure they let you know, and they will ensure that happens. So without kind of further ado, I'd like to kind of take a note here that you are joining us at a very exciting time. Just this year, Swinburne was ranked in the top 3 in Victoria for student satisfaction. This is coming on the back of our rankings in the QS World University Rankings of being ranked as a university in the top 450 in the world. And this is something that just we love, because it really helps us be proud of what we do here at Swinburne, be proud of the institution that we represent, and really kind of show to you that our commitment to our students is paramount, and we ensure that we do everything we can. I think it is time for us to get started with some questions. So I'm probably going to turn to Lyndon in the first occasion. Lyndon, let's talk about someone who's just received a Swinburne offer. What advice do you have for them, and what should they be doing now?
Well, my advice to everybody who has an offer letter out there, first of all, you should read your offer letter thoroughly at least once. And the next step is to accept your offer. Now, for those of you who have met the conditions and ready to pay your fees, that's what we meant by accept your offer. You could have a conditional or an unconditional offer. I would recommend that you talk to your agent if an agent is involved in your application, or clarify directly with us on what is the process to accept an offer.
Cool.
Sure.
No, that's very important. And I think with offers, it requires particular timelines to be followed. Is there anything particular you want to elaborate to ensure that one of our students who got an offer letter has the best experience right throughout the offer process?
Okay. If you read through your offer letter, there is a section which says pay a deposit and accept your offer. That link on your offer letter will lead you to a page on our website where you will be in a position to download the acceptance form. In order to do that, you should first read 4 or 5 tabs and tick that you've read and understood the processes, especially in regards to the refund policy and basically the acceptance is confirming your seat confirming your admission, which leads to enrollment at Swinburne University. So go onto our website, download the acceptance form, read through the processes, fill in and sign the acceptance and send it to us so we can issue you with a confirmation of enrollment for your course. If an agent is involved in your application, they are pretty much thorough with the processes and they can help you through the process smoothly.
I think that's some very important advice about seeking assistance from your agent, because your agent has seen this many a time and they have obviously helped a lot of students come to Swinburne. So I think that's very important advice that you conveyed there. Thank you, Lyndon. Also, I know there are some very important dates that we need to follow. I'm just going to inform you that we need to pause for just 2 minutes and we'll be right back. We've just found that we can improve our video quality. Just bear with us for 2 minutes and we'll be right back. Thank you everyone for bearing with us while we had some technical difficulties. I hope you can see us now, and if there's any issues, please feel free to send us a quick message on the Q&A tab that I mentioned before on the platform, and one of our lovely staff will be kind of jumping onto that straight away. I'll pick up where we left off. Lyndon, we were just talking about the experience from a student who's just got an offer, the process for them to look at accepting and then progressing through to enrollment. Now, you mentioned there that there was a really important piece about seeking the advice of their agent, and I think that's very important because we agree. I mean, agents are experts in this and they've seen a lot of different situations and they have a direct line of connection to us. Now, I also know that depending on which area of the globe you're applying from, there are some particular deadlines you need to talk to. Do you want to elaborate on some of those dates, particularly for some of our students who look at taking an action?
Yes, it's important for you to note the last date of acceptance. And forgive me for not looking at the camera. I'll have to read through these dates, which is different for different parts of the globe. So if you're a student from China or Mongolia, your last date of acceptance is the 9th of July. Hong Kong, Macau, Korea, and Taiwan is the 16th of July. Pakistan, 10th of June. It's just a few days from now. Bangladesh, Nepal, Mauritius, India, and Africa is the 30th of June. Sri Lanka, 8th of July. Vietnam, Indonesia, Cambodia, Thailand, Myanmar, and Philippines is the 28th of June. For the whole of the Middle East, it's the 30th of June. Malaysia, Singapore, 12th of June. USA, Canada, and Europe, 12th of June. Latin America and Turkey, 10th of June. And if you're a student in Australia, that is if you're currently onshore in Australia, your last date of acceptance is the 27th of June, which is the day before the course commencement.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Lyndon. Now let's imagine you've gone through the process, you've got your offer, you've accepted it, and you're now looking at leaving and coming to Melbourne. I think this is a great opportunity to chat to Desma about international student support and what extra support Swinburne has to offer our international students. Desma, do you want to elaborate on that?
Thanks, Nish. Welcome, everyone. Hello from my team. My team exists because Swinburne cares about you as an international student. I have to say that not all universities have a specialist team for their international students, although they might have the same support services. So before you arrive, you'll be sent a lot of pre-departure information, and there's a lot to know. There's links to lots of things for you to know, and there's links to my team as well. There's a checklist in there. If you like a planning checklist, it'll give you an idea of other things you need to think of, like somewhere to live, what public transport is like, and how you'll find your way to university. There'll also be links to the other support services, like some that you'll hear about today, but most importantly to my team, International Student Advisory and Support. So then on arrival, my team will also assist you. We understand that you're not only a student, you are for a while when you first get here, a traveller and a tourist in a way. And so we want to help you adjust and settle into being a student and being successful in your studies. So we'll welcome you with some helpful hints and tips, an orientation to this strange place you've arrived in and found yourself in. We really understand that you have focused for now, up until now, on what you want to study and what it will be like as a student. We're here to help you with all of the things that you didn't think of when you were focusing on that, to help you adapt to the new environment. And then during your study, we'll help keep you on track. Someone you can come and talk to if you have any questions and you don't know who to ask. There is a lot of support at Swinburne for all of the students. There's a great student headquarters with very informative people, lots of information, very knowledgeable people. But if ever you are unsure of who to ask, we would love you to come and ask us. That's what we're here for. We have 24-hour support for you as well. Even though we're not in the office 24 hours a day, we have a phone line that you can use to find out anything you want to know during your time here. And then we offer a range of activities throughout your time here, usually around helping you to understand Australia a little bit better, Melbourne, whatever it is you need to know.
No, that's fantastic. Can I just say, as I was listening to that, what was really clear to me is how in pretty much every step of the student journey there is support, and there's not only the support that's given, but also the support and services and the knowledge of the team, if I can say that, accessible to our students, which sounds fantastic. Thank you, Desma. I know something that's really important, maybe for our students, but also some of the parents out there wondering about, you know, your son or daughter is looking at taking, moving over to Melbourne and commencing their journey at Swinburne. I'm sure accommodation will be something that is something you touched on, and for some of our students looking at coming in, it'll be one of the first times that they're moving out of home. Yeah. Anything you can kind of elaborate on that, I think would be appreciated by our audience.
Sure. Yeah, it's a big question. It's a big question for a lot of students, and it's one of those ones that starts in your pre-departure information. So within that pre-departure information, again, there will be links to our accommodation website and a range of information there. But within my team, I have a specialist international student accommodation advisor. Ta-da! So you can write to him even before you come here. There's direct contact with him. You can write to him. You can ask him questions. Whatever it is you're looking at that the website might direct you to, the various types of accommodation, you have questions about that, Sam will answer those questions for you directly, and he will talk backwards and forwards with you to help you to understand what it is you may not be understanding. But just to go over the types of accommodation, there is accommodation, student accommodation on campus. It can be limited because it's very handy for everyone to stay on campus. So you need to apply early for that and think about that early. There are also private student accommodations, not owned by Swinburne, but in the area, very close to the campus. So those are there also. The links are all on that web page for our accommodation, and they're fully furnished student accommodation. There's also a thing called homestay. If you would like to stay with a local family and feel that you have that family support around you, you can apply for homestay. And that way you get to see a little bit more of local family life, and that includes your food and time with the family, etc. And they will help you settle in as well. And then separate to that, there is private rentals or share house accommodation. So there are places for rent, apartments, houses, etc. And there are also students who share houses together, or young people in Australia who are out to work and have a spare room and want to bring in someone else to share. So links for all of those are available on the website. That's about it. Is there something else?
No, thank you very much, Desma. That was a very comprehensive answer, and I think what you're hearing is there's a range of options, and doing your research now will really help you by the time you arrive in Melbourne. Moving on to talk about future careers for a moment. So a lot of the things at Swinburne are geared towards you finding your professional purpose, but also really understanding what your future career looks like. Someone who has a big passion for that area is Olivia, and I'd like to ask Olivia this question now. How can students who are out there with an offer in their hand looking to accept and come to Swinburne in 2018, how can students really enrich their studies beyond just the academics to ensure that they're prepared for their future career?
Hi, thanks, Nish. Hello, everybody. That's a great question, because I think students are looking to come to Swinburne and study to really enhance their careers, whether they're going to be in Australia, back in their home country, or maybe even in a third country. And it's a very competitive graduate recruitment market at present, whether you're looking in Australia or internationally. We know that. So at Swinburne, we're very focused on helping to develop your career and what we call your employability. So that encompasses your technical skills that you'll get through your academic studies, but we're also very focused on developing your broader skill set. And we often call those the soft skills, and they're the skills that employers, particularly in Australia, are looking for. So a difference between perhaps international students and local students is their understanding and their connection with the local job market. So at Swinburne, we're very much about helping to connect you with potential employers and building your network of contacts. And what we've done is we've developed a student journey employability and career life cycle. So we're very structured around putting in place and breaking it down so it's easy for you to develop. So first step in that journey is probably helping you to find part-time or casual employment. And that in Australia is very critical, because employers really value your ability to have experience in the local market. And whether that's working at a local supermarket or in hospitality or in a role related to your studies, it's all very valuable. So we focus very much on how to find employment, what your employment rights are, what the base rates of pay are, and we have a website called Swin Employ where we advertise a lot of those types of positions. Moving along, as you move through your journey at Swinburne, we are very much focused on giving you exposure to those skills I've said that employers are wanting. So there's a big focus on helping you develop professional communication skills, understanding Australian workplace culture, and giving you exposure and actually taking you on industry visits. So as a nice example, we took a group of marketing students last semester to Porsche, Australia, and we had spent a morning with the senior management team in their marketing department, and the students really enjoyed that experience. And we do that, I do that personally a few times a semester. Other activities that we have are accompanying you to events run by professional associations, so taking engineers, accountants, IT students, design students out to industry, so you feel comfortable networking and getting to know what's happening out there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. No, that was a very comprehensive answer. And what I was hearing was not only is there support for students who are looking to find out where they can find things out from government websites, and there's someone to help and kind of guide them through that. but then it's also the real kind of practical elements about taking students out to industry visits and showing them how networking happens in Australia and what that looks like in the Melbourne context. And I think that's very valuable. Thank you for that. If you have questions, make sure that you are getting a chance to put those in so that we can have the panel respond to them. I'm now going to focus on something else that is a very big part of your university experience, and that is outside of academics, outside of your career preparedness, what does your student life look like? And someone who's very capable of answering this is Alice. And I'd love to ask you, Alice, the question about, can you give us a bit of an overview, I think, to start? What does your team do that really enhances and enriches our students' experience?
Thank you. We exist for the student experience. We have a wide range of services and programs tailored just to you. For example, we have a massive range of clubs. We have over 80 you can join, everything from snowboarding to archery to aviation, and even anime too, or you can make your own club. So the live chat team is going to post a link soon, and you can have a look at all the clubs we have and maybe start creating your own now before you get here. We also have lots of sporting teams, so we've got lacrosse and basketball and all sorts of teams. We have inter-varsity competitions, so we compete against other universities like RMIT, and we do pretty well. So we'll have all of that linked on the portal very soon. We also have a volunteering program, so you lodge your hours with us and then you can unlock some pretty cool prizes and also some courses all for free. So you get RSAs, first aid training, and also food handling training, all for the hours that you've volunteered on campus or with different businesses. It's a really good way to make friends, but it's also a really good way to boost your CV and to stand out from the crowd. We also have an advocacy service. So if you're having any problems with your academic progress, you need a hand, it's completely confidential and free, and just stays in the room. So feel free to get in touch. Again, we'll have some links later as well. And we also have our night bus. So that's a free bus that operates every 30 minutes. So that's at the Hawthorn campus. And it can drop you off anywhere locally around Hawthorn if you're staying there in the accommodation that Desna's just mentioned. And we also have Glenferrie train station. That's right in the heart of campus. It's only a 10-minute ride from the city, and makes travelling to and from Swinburne really easy. And we also have lots of buses and trams and all sorts of public transport available at your fingertips. So just let us know if you need some help with that too. We also have free legal advice. So we have a panel of law firms on hand. If you ever need any support in that space, please get in contact. It's all available on the Swinburne website. We'll give our team a call and we can give you a hand. And we also have a tax help program. So it's almost tax time, guys. So when you get here, come get in touch because we can give you a hand. We've got the volunteers that we mentioned earlier. They've been trained up by the ATO, so we can help you get the most out of your tax returns too, if you need any support in that space. And finally, we have a massive events program. So every other week, we've got an event on campus. It's a good way to make friends, get involved. We also have some awesome trips outside of campus. So we've got buses that take students down to Phillip Island, to wineries, and also to Hillsville Sanctuary. So it's a really good chance to get off campus and see some really iconic parts of Melbourne, Victoria. And they're all half price too, which is pretty sweet. We also have our party cruise and our end of year uni ball too. So if you'd like to, you can follow our Facebook page. We might post a link shortly, which is Razor the Razorback. If you follow us, you can win merchandise, you can get tickets to the AFL, which is a football, lots of local events, and also know when all the free food's happening on campus. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alice. One of the interesting things is once you look at coming to Swinburne, you will absolutely meet a lot of friends through the course that you're studying, because that's a lot of people who are picked the course, the same one as you. They have a lot of shared interests. But outside of that, it's a really nice way that Swinburne supports students to mingle socially, to get to know others, to get to know other cultures, to get to know other contexts, so that you not only are you having a well-rounded academic experience, you're having a very holistic student experience, which helps you grow in other ways. So that, I think, elaborated on a range of things you can do. Obviously, you don't need to remember all of this now, but when you do come on, I'm sure you'll be seeing Alice and the friendly team to be able to get in touch.
Yeah.
I am going to move on to the academic in our room. Now, Liz, I know you've been waiting towards the end, so thank you for your patience. Can you start by going through, for some of our students who are from overseas, particularly our concept of semesters and study periods might be a little bit, new. Do you want to please elaborate so that our students can get a little bit more context?
Okay, thanks, Nishan.
it's actually interesting listening to all of our speakers and how overwhelming it must be for all of you to try and get your heads around all of this. And I just want to assure you that it really makes a very little difference whether you're an international or a local student. Any transition is difficult. It takes time to settle in. It takes time to adjust and get used to. So it's exciting, and we're here to help you, as you've heard along the way. So the official semester starts usually at the beginning of March and usually at the end of July or early August. But before the semester starts officially, we usually run a Strategies for Success program about 2 weeks before the semester commences, and I strongly urge you to consider coming along to those. And then we have our orientation activities, which commence the week before the semester starts. So I would really encourage you all to come along to the International Welcome, which is usually on the Monday before the semester starts, to the orientation activities for your faculty or for your school, and they will be usually before the semester commences. And then the academic semester for higher education starts at the beginning of August, the end of July, for semester 2, or mainly semester 2 students coming. Yes?
Yeah.
Then after the first 4 weeks in the semester, so at the end of March and the end of July, we have what's called the census date. And by that date, you need to make sure that you're enrolled in the right units and that you've got everything under control, and we will give you some assessment tasks so you get a sense of how well you're going in the units. Around the middle of the semester, usually around week 6, week 7, we have a non-teaching week. So that's an opportunity for you to catch up, for you to make sure that you're on track, and then the semester ends at the end of week 12. There's a few days at the end of each semester, and then after that there'll be usually a two-week exam period.
Thank you very much, Liz. That was very comprehensive, and hopefully you at least now have an understanding that the semester goes for about 12 weeks, and there's particular things that happen right the way through. Something that Desma is quite keen for me to tell you, and no, that's great. I think that's very important. Do you want to kind of talk to it, actually?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Liz just brought up a great point about the Strategies for Success program that's run for students before semester starts. There is one scheduled 2 weeks before classes start, which if you're in the country, you're most welcome to come to. But in fact, the Strategies for Success team also run one during orientation week specifically for international students. So your offer letter says to you the day you should arrive is the first day of orientation week, which is the International Student Welcome Day, where my team run a full day for you with lots of direction and information for you. And during that week, the Strategies for Success team run their program again specifically for international students. So I think that's really handy for you to know.
I think it's important to recognize that not everyone can come in by a particular date. So we do ensure we go and do as much as we can to ensure that every one of you get a chance to participate in all of these great activities so that you feel very relaxed going into your studies, and then we set you up for success. So thank you for that, both Desma and Liz. Liz, I've got another question for you, and this is something that I know particularly when I was an international student, I had these questions as well. Particularly, what's the difference between a lecture and some of our practical classes? Can you give us some examples of what some students can expect, what they would do in a practical class that they might not do in a lecture?
Well, lectures usually, but not only, tend to be the lecturer standing out the front, delivering material with students writing, taking notes, trying to make sense of the information. We do try and make our classes interactive. We do encourage our students to talk to one another at times, but they tend to be a less engaging, less active form of learning. Whereas when we go to our tutorials, when we go to our practical classes, when we go to our labs, it's over to you. It's an opportunity for you to get to meet other students, for you to ask questions, for you to answer questions. We do quite a lot of group work with other students, and so it's really important that you get to know the other students. And we try very hard to give you the opportunity in classes to work on the tasks that you do find challenging. What that does mean, though, is that you need to make sure that you're prepared when you come to class. And so you'll find that there's quite a lot of online material that you're expected to read, to come prepared to class, to have tried to make some sense out of, so that we can then work on developing your understanding and developing your opportunities to meet other students in the classes.
No, that's great. And I think the big takeaway there is some of the work happens outside of the class, and how much you invest in that work directly relates to how much value you get out of the class and the experience that you build for yourself. So it's important to note that it's not just about turning up to class and starting on the work then and there. It's also about trying to make sure that you're prepared as well as you can be. And I know a lot of our international students are very keen to do the best they can for the time that they're spending with us. And one of the key kind of tips, if you like, is prepare ahead and ensure that when you're turning up to class, you are as prepared as you can be, which means going through all the materials and things that Liz just mentioned. So thank you for that, Liz. Last question for Liz, and after this, we are going to move into our Q&A session. So make sure you keep your questions coming. I can see a few here, and that's why I'm looking down at my iPad. Liz, something that I know students certainly ask me is, how can they get the best out of their learning experience? I know you mentioned a little bit about preparing ahead and being proactive and engaging with the material, but also in the classroom. Do you want to elaborate for our students, particularly for those who are coming from international, who are international students, what are some of the differences in kind of the Australian culture of how our classes are structured and how we engage in class?
Thanks, Nish. Well, I think the first thing that many students, and local as well, but particularly international students, will find unusual or unfamiliar is the fact that we refer to each other by first name. So it's not uncommon for people to be called by their first name, and that's really the way that we address one another. And we want to make you feel relaxed. We want you to feel comfortable. And it is really important that you try and work out what the protocols and processes are. And sometimes that can be quite difficult. And I think the best way to do that is by making some friends, making sure that you ask questions. You've heard already about all the various support services, and there's a lot of information on the web. So the information is out there. It's just a matter of you trying to make sense of that. And that'll come a bit like an onion. It'll come layer by layer. Initially, everything will seem unfamiliar, and then over time, you'll build your confidence, and you'll find that there are more things for you to discover. So once you are enrolled in your units, usually a week before the semester commences, you will have access to your learning management system. For some of you, that will be Blackboard. For other students, that will be Canvas. The sooner that you log in and you download the unit outline, you will become familiar with what we are expecting from you, with the books you need to bring along, with the sort of assignments that you might be expected to do. So the more questions you ask, the more work you do in advance, the better off you'll be. But I just want to assure you and reassure you that you are not alone. Everybody else who's sitting in the same classroom as you is probably feeling the same nerves, the same butterflies, the same uncertainties, and over time, that will actually start becoming much more comfortable and much more familiar. It won't take you very long, and if you can get over that first hump, that first hurdle, you'll find yourself swimming.
Thank you very much, Liz. And I think it's important to kind of close out our discussion by saying we were all new at one point. So I think it's quite important to understand that where you are, a lot of other students have been there too, and they've taken up the opportunity to engage with Swinburne and make that experience really work for them. So that brings us to the end of kind of us talking. And well, actually, it brings us to the end of us kind of talking to you, but now it's your turn to ask some questions. And I can see a lot of questions have come through. So in no particular order, we'll start going through these questions. And there are some things that that we will probably cover again. So again, we are recording this session. It will be emailed out to everyone who's registered. So if you do miss out on anything, do not worry. We will ensure that you will get a copy of this. And our question answer team, which is doing a big job behind the scenes, is doing a great job of answering those questions as well. So one of the first questions I'd like to go into is something that Lyndon mentioned. And I know we won't probably go into it in a lot of detail, but yes, the question basically is, are there particular cutoff dates for accepting your offer, depending on where you're applying from? The answer is absolutely yes. Now, Lyndon did cover that. Lyndon, do you want to give a quick highlight of some of those and point to maybe a web link that students can get more information at?
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, I mentioned about the last date of acceptance, and one of the questions posted was, why are there different dates of acceptance for different countries? Now, this is based on the time that you would require to apply for your visa. The process is this: you submit your acceptance, we issue a COE, which is a confirmation of enrollment, and only then you can lodge an application for your visa. So the different dates determine the time that you require to obtain a visa in order to come here for post-commencement. For orientation.
Cool. No, thank you. And we will reiterate and push some of those dates out as well so that you can refer to it. A question that we've had very high volume of, which is good, and this really kind of reflects kind of Swinburne's promise to you in a lot of ways, is the student experience is great from a kind of academic perspective, but what are the opportunities to really get that Australian work experience? So I know, Olivia, you spoke about this before. Some of the questions have been in the vein of, what are some of the opportunities to continue work once you finish study? What kind of placements are available? Particularly, there's a lot of questions around engineering and IT, and I know you mentioned Porsche and marketing. Are there any particular examples that you can kind of think of as well that you've been involved in?
Sure. So a lot of our students have some really great post-study work outcomes, which is fantastic. Probably the best examples of those are where students have taken advantage of opportunities in degrees to get experience. So many of our degrees have professional placements, projects, or internships built into them. And so that's always a great way to build contacts, build experience, and set yourself up for career success. We also help students to find employment related to their studies while they're a student. So many of our students are working part-time. Many of them work in IT-related roles in local businesses. Particularly small to medium-sized businesses are great ways to get some initial experience. Melbourne has a really vibrant startup scene, and in the next few weeks I'm actually taking a group of students to a startup meet. And so we're going to be meeting entrepreneurs who are looking for new staff.
No, fantastic. I'm going to keep moving on because we do have a lot of questions covered. Thank you, Olivia. Desma, you mentioned accommodation options, and the questions come out about, can you talk a little bit more about temporary versus permanent options? And also, is airport pickup available?
Oh, how could I forget airport pickup? We do have a free airport pickup service for all commencing international students. In that pre-departure information that's sent to you, there will be a link there for you to book your airport pickup service. Once you have accepted your offer, then you will be on that company's list as a Swinburne student, and that will match when you go in to book. So yes, most definitely.
No,
thank you
good.
for asking.
Not a problem. And just about the accommodation, the temporary versus permanent.
Our advice to students always is that you book something temporary before you come in. There's a big range of accommodation, as we went through before. So often what will suit you, you might need to see first. So it's a good idea to book a hostel or a hotel or something temporary. There's other links on the website for things like that. Or stay with friends if you've got other friends here now, students who might be here that you already know. They're usually pretty happy to show you around a little bit and to give you some ideas of how things work here. But of course, the accommodation advisor also is available, and from that welcome day and orientation week, he runs a help desk that is open for just dropping in and talking to him about different things and asking him questions and checking on those things. And also he runs a couple of little workshops on, what to know before you sign a lease, things like that for accommodation.
Thank you very much, Desma. No, absolutely. And I think it's important to point out that with airport pickup, it's good to kind of get in early and, give us plenty of time. Is anything you want to kind of add to that?
Airport pickup's pretty good. They need at least 24 hours notice. So often your details for your if your visa is sort of held up a little bit,
Mhm.
there can be that little rush at the end for visa and flight
Mhm.
bookings. So they only need about 24 hours minimum
Yep.
notice, so that's okay. It's just handy to have an accommodation address, because they will pick you up from the airport and they will take you directly to your accommodation.
No, thank you. Just you mentioned that, and we probably should address it. Yes, we know that sometimes not everything goes to plan, and the question has been asked: what happens if I get my visa after the course has commenced? Now, Lyndon, anything from your experience that you want to talk about this topic and give some advice to our students who are out there listening?
The ideal time for you to arrive would be at least for on course commencement date, which is the 30th of July. If your visa is issued after that, you need to check with us, and we need to clarify it with the faculty if there is any extension. But at this stage, there's no confirmation on late enrollment dates. But unfortunately, if there are no extensions, you may have to defer and travel on the same visa. So,
No, thank you. So I think at that point, it's important to say that you do need to reach out and get in touch with us and let us know and help us work with you to come to a proper solution for that particular situation. Yes, please.
I'd like to just add that is why there is a last date of acceptance. So if you accept your offer within those dates that I mentioned, it is most likely that you will get your visa on time for course commencement.
Now, this question, I'm just going to elaborate. Not everyone might know this, but we have a system for public transport in Victoria. We have a system called MyKey, which basically is the ticket you use. Questions come through saying, is Concession MyKey cards available to international students? I'm going to throw this one to the panel, but I feel like Desmond's nodding, so she might take this question.
There is a system in Victoria for students of some courses, enrolled in some courses, to have it's not actually a concession card, but it is a card that is at cost to you of 50% of the full cost.
Okay.
But that is purchased as a yearly ticket. So you must be prepared that that's what you're going to purchase. The university can help you do that. It's a collaboration between the Victorian State Government, the universities, and the transport operator.
No, thank you.
Something else I was going to say.
No, that's all right. But I think it's important to know. Please continue.
Yeah, I know what I was going to point out. It is only for particular courses. For example, postgraduate students are not eligible, but by the same token, local postgraduate students don't have concession cards either. So where there can be concessions for students, international students have that opportunity as well.
And who are our students best placed to talk to find out more about that, or is there some information on the website they can access?
There's a little information on the website, but really that's part of the international student welcome, is getting you acclimatized to all of that stuff, getting you to understand what supports there are available for you. And you can call in at student headquarters and they will help you to apply for that.
Thank you. Look, we are running out of time, so I am going to, there's two questions I'm going to try to roll into one. So one question is, what will my timetable look like, and when do we get our timetable? Also coupled with, do we enroll and choose our majors, minors online, or do we have to do it on campus?
Great question. So I'll take the first one around timetables. Once you enroll in your units, you will then be able to go in and select the classes that you attend. So you might want to have a look at the timetable, and that's quite easy to access if you go onto the website and you have a look at, if you search for timetable, then you'll be able to have a look at when the various classes are, and from that perhaps choose your the units that you're going to study. So it really depends on what course you're taking. Some course you've got to do units in a particular order. In business, you have got a little bit of flexibility.
No.
As far as times are concerned, the university works from about 8:30 in the morning to 9:30 at night, Monday to Friday. We also have some classes on weekends, particularly for postgraduate students. So we With regards to your majors and your minors, when you're enrolled, you'll find that once you've enrolled and you're able to access your student plan, your study plan, that you'll be able to self-select in most cases your majors and your minors, but in general you're not actually locked in. So in most courses you will have some core units that you'll need to do before you actually need to make a defined choice.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. We'll probably need one more question before we move on. So the last question is, are there any scholarships for international students? And I know, Linda, this is something we've spoken about before and you touched on it. Do you want to quickly elaborate where students can find some of this information?
We do have a scholarship scheme for all students in undergraduate and postgraduate programs, including pathways. The scholarships could range between 10% of the total tuition fee to a maximum of 25% of the total tuition fee. If you are eligible for a scholarship, it would have already been granted to you and mentioned on your offer letter. Does that answer your question?
No, it does.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know that we assess all students for a scholarship at the point at which you apply. So if you apply through an agent, that application has been seen by our admissions team and we've already made an assessment. So students who have been successful in receiving the scholarship Lyndon mentioned have already been informed by the offer letter. So, thank you very much for that. Now, keep in mind, we've covered a lot of information today. So thank you very much to the lovely panel who's given up their time to join me today. Thank you to you who are watching from over the internet, and hopefully we have been able to cover some of the questions that you have been thinking of. We might have prompted you to think about more questions. If that's the case, that's not a problem. You can continue to get in touch with us and we'll be quite happy to chat and ensure that we answer your particular questions. Now, I've heard a lot of information and I've been madly taking notes, trying to try to bring it into some fashion that I can talk to you about. But really, what I heard from Desma and Olivia is the fact that there's a specialist team here to look after you that not all universities can talk about. We are very proud to have this team and have the support given to you to be able to look after you from the time you arrive all the way through to when you graduate and when you start finding work as well. I think what Lyndon mentioned around really making sure you understand your offer letter and follow those timelines that your agents will talk to you about, or from the dates that Lyndon spoke to you that you have to adhere to, those are very important. So the more you can ensure that you stick to those timelines, the better position you will be in so that we can assist you through. Now, I know Alice spoke a lot about your experience outside of your academics and your kind of professional focus and career and outside of class. That is very important. And I think that is often something that students use to really acclimatize to their new environments and really settle in. And Liz mentioned that being prepared for classes beforehand really ensures that you're set up for success. Now, again, thank you to everyone. I've really enjoyed this session. Hopefully you've got some value out of this as well. Thank you for joining us from around the globe. As I said, this session has been recorded, so anyone registering will find an email with a link to this particular recording. And if you've got any specialist questions that were asked, we have already escalated that to our inquiry management team, who will be in touch with you in 2 business days. From all of us here at Swinburne, thank you very much. Goodbye.